cast on stage for this moment when possible. Kiara is best known for portrayal Michonne on The Walking Dead. Nyong'o won an Oscar for her performance in the film 12 Years a Slave. U2's guitarist The Edge performed at the Sistine Chapel, becoming the first rock star to stage a concert inside the world-famous Vatican City Chapel. The famed guitar player performed inside the chapel underneath frescoes by Michelangelo as part of a conference of regenerative medicine. The conference brought together more than 200 doctors, scientists, researchers, and philanthropists to discuss ways to fight diseases such as cancer, according to Rolling Stone magazine. The Edge, whose real name is Dave Evans, has been a member of the Angiogenesis Foundation since 2007 after his daughter was diagnosed with leukemia in 2006. Angiogenesis refers to the body's ability to grow new blood vessels. He said, referencing to U2's frontman Bono, when I was asked to perform at the Sistine Chapel, I didn't know what to say because usually there's this other guy who sings. So it took me at least, 30 seconds to agree to it. The Edge performed U2's Yahweh, Ordinary World, and Walk On, and covered Leonard Cohen's If It Be Your Will. Pope Francis was not in attendance. The Edge said of the Pope before the concert, my special thanks goes to him, to the people's Pope. Pro basketball superstar Chris Paul and rapper Snoop Dogg will face off on Thursday's edition of the competition series Lip Sync Battle. The Spike Cable channel released a clip Monday of Paul performing New Edition's Candy Girl. Snoop's song has not yet been revealed. Lip Sync Battle now is in its second season. It's hosted by Chrissy Teigen and LL Cool J. Radiohead does love a good mystery. The iconic band have sent their fan base on the wildest of treasure hunts, with the final prize presumably being the release of their 9th studio album following 2011's King of Limbs. And eagerly detailed by followers on Reddit, the whole affair began at around 17:19 General Mission time on Sunday, May 1st, when the band's official website slowly began to fade away with the dying of the sun's light. Then came the social media pages with the individual tweets by both the band's official accounts as well as Tom York's own personal tweet account slowly being deleted. Beyond that, Facebook and Google Plus pages were systematically stripped. By that time, the sun had set on the band's own home, Oxford. Their entire web presence had disappeared without a trace. Their official website and social media pages are now utterly blank, with profile pictures replaced by total white squares, a total erasure. The date also seems to be significant. The first Sunday in May is known as International Dawn Chorus Day, dedicated to the natural symphonies of early morning birds. Yet also the namesake of radio's newly registered companies, Dawn Chorus LLP and Dawn Chorus Limited. Meanwhile, a selected group of fans received a strange delivery on April 30th, a day sometimes referred to as the Walpurgis Night, the old folkloric celebration said to belong to the witches. Leaflets emblazoned with the words, "Sing the song of the sixpence that goes burn the witch," referencing to an old unreleased song by the band dating back nearly 13 years. What does that mean? Many fans have naturally assumed that the new album would be dropping with the coming dawn, but that doesn't appear to have happened. Or will Radiohead be teasing out new clues for their fans in the coming days? It's certainly in line with their old habits, accustomed as they are to experiment methods for releasing new music. Most famously, Radiohead made their 2007 album In Rainbows, initially available only online, where fans were asked to pay whatever price they felt right for ownership of their new songs. In short, it's difficult to know what to expect from Radiohead, precisely because absolutely anything can be expected. And now let's take a look at what happened on this date in entertainment history. On this date in 1933, James Brown is born. Soul Brother number 1, the Godfather of Soul, Mr. Dynamite, Sex Machine, and the Minister of the New Super Heavy Funk. Those are the names by which the world would eventually know James Joseph Brown Jr., the revolutionary musical figure who was born on this date in 1933. The story Brown himself would often tell is that he appeared stillborn when he first came into the world, but that an aunt attended his birth managed to breathe life into him. Long before he changed the course of 20th century popular music and crowned himself the hardest working man in show business, little James Brown may have been the hardest working boy in Augusta, Georgia, where he was sent to live with his aunt Honey Washington at the age of 6. He spent the previous several years with his father, James Sr., who scraped out a meager living selling pine tar to the local turpentine factories in the woods of Barnwell County, South Carolina, just down of Savannah River from Augusta. James' mother had left with another man when James was only 4, and while Aunt Honey would play something of a maternal role for James, the fact that she ran a brothel and sold moonshine for a living made for anything but a traditional upbringing. While other famous musicians of his generation would get their musical training in the traditional contents of the church, James Brown would get his on the streets, where between jobs as a cotton picker, coal scrounger, and shoeshine boy, he also danced and sang to attract clients to his aunt's place of business. He honed his talents further in prison, where he was sentenced to 8 to 16 years for stealing from parked cars at the age of 15. An experience that might have broken another man, however, instead inspired Brown to dedicate himself to music. He did his first gospel singing while in prison, where he earned the nickname Music Box and impressed his warden and the Georgia State Parole Board enough with his seriousness of purpose to win his release after only 3 years. At the age of 19, a highly motivated, worldly wise, and ferociously talented James Brown walked out of prison and began his climb towards music greatness. Also on this date in 1948, the U.S. Supreme Court issues a decision in U.S. versus Paramount Pictures, the government's long-running antitrust lawsuit against Paramount Pictures and 7 other major Hollywood movie studios. The forerunner of the case was a 1928 antitrust lawsuit brought by the Federal Trade Commissions against the famous Players Lasky Corporation and 9 other major film studios. Declared guilty of violating antitrust laws in 1930, the studios were nonetheless able to resume functioning as normal after concluding a controversial deal with the government of President Franklin D. Roosevelt during the Great Depression under the auspices of the National Industrial Recovery Act. In July 1938, the government reversed its stance towards Hollywood and it filed a lawsuit against 7 major studios: Paramount, Universal, MGM, 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, Columbia, and RKO. The government's case accused the studios of violating the Sherman Antitrust Act in their total control over movie distribution and exhibition. At the time, 7 studios controlled almost all the country's movie theaters, either through ownership of their own theater chains or through a process known as block booking, in which independent theater owners signed contracts with the studios that required them to show a given number or blocks of films. In their antitrust case, the government was demanding that the studios end block booking and get rid of either their distribution arms or theaters. The case first went through trial in federal court in New York in June of 1940, was called off after 2 weeks when the government and studio attorneys worked out a compromise deal in which the studio would retain their movie theaters but limit block bookings. The satisfaction with this so-called consent decree led to the formation of the Society Independent Motion Pictures Producers by some of the leading independent movie producers of the day, including Charlie Chaplin, Walt Disney, Samuel Goldwyn, David O. Selznick, Mary Pickford, and Orson Welles. The efforts by independent producers helping to get the government's antitrust case back into court came in the fall of 1945, after New York District Court handed down a guilty rule, the terms of which nonetheless failed to satisfy the government and the independent producers. Both sides submitted appeals that would eventually take the case all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The trial proceeded quickly once it reached the Supreme Court in February 1948. On this date, the court issued its ruling, which affirmed the early verdicts and declared the studios guilty of violating antitrust laws. By the term of the verdicts, the studios were made to sign consent decrees that would end the practice of block bookings by requiring that all films be sold on an individual basis. They were also required to divest themselves of their own theater chains. With this decision, independent producers could finally begin to compete with the major studios for audiences and actors, marking the beginning of the end for the Hollywood studio system. And that's your entertainment report for Tuesday, May 3rd, 2016. I'm your host, Mr. Downtown Ray Melo. I'll be back tomorrow to deliver some major stories and trends going on in the world of entertainment and beyond. You can follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Facebook.com/The Entertainment Report with Ray Melo. That's RAYMELO. On Twitter at The Enter Report, or on Instagram at The Entertainment Report. You can listen to this episode or any previous episodes of The Entertainment Report anytime you want on iHeartRadio. Just go to iHeart.com or your iHeart phone app, search for The Entertainment Report, and it'll take you to the page. Good night, and God bless you all.